Hey guys, Joe Tunney here at Infiniti of Kirkland in Kirkland, Washington, just outside of Seattle. Probably the single most common request we get, probably any Infiniti store in the country gets, is do you have any 03, 04, 05 G35 two-doors, we call them coupes, that are under $10,000? And probably 99% of the time we don't, because as an Infiniti dealer, whenever you're carrying something, an Infiniti particularly, you want to make sure that it's really nice and it's going to be trouble-free, and you got to put a lot of money into it. Well, the two doors, they go for a lot of money wholesale, and it's very difficult for us to take one in and then do the reconditioning that needs to be done to meet our standards and still make money and still be under $10,000. But if you can find the right one under $10,000, it can be one of the best purchases you've ever made. And yes, you're probably gonna have to make some sacrifices, maybe taller miles or weird story on the Carfax. But if you know what you're looking for, an inexpensive G35 coupe can be an absolutely electrifying, thrilling car that can be essentially a trouble-free car, or at least as trouble-free as a high-performance sports car in this price point is ever going to be. You just got to know what to look for. Now, for starters, I mentioned Carfax. That's a big sticking point with Infiniti as a brand. Most Infiniti dealers do not, in fact, report to Carfax. We are by far and away the biggest dealer in this region, and we do not report to Carfax. So it doesn't matter if the car has fabulous service records going back to day one, none of that will report to the Carfax. Also, if we've had to install new airbags because it's been in a major collision, that will never report to Carfax. So a lot of dealers like to prey on cars that are announced as frame damage at the auction, but the Carfax is clean. Therefore, they can sell it to you and kind of shrug their shoulders and say, hey, we thought it had a clean Carfax when we bought the car. We were relying on that information, when the truth is they knew all along that it was a bad car. The flip side to that is a car like this is mentioning structural damage on the Carfax that was announced at an auction somewhere at some point in its life. And so you say, well, I don't want a car with structural damage. I'm going to take a look at this particular car and I'm going to show you how you can determine if a car, regardless of the Carfax is yay or nay, how you can determine if a car is a good deal for you. A car like this, it's a 2005 G35 coupe, and you can tell it's a 2005 or newer by the 19-inch alloy wheels that are distinctive to the 2005 6 and 7 sports packages. And so when you get a sports package, you get the offset 19-inch wheels, and then also this has the aerodynamic package, which has the rear spoiler, and there's some other creature comforts that go with that. First thing I want you to look at, though, is the headlights. These headlights are all yellow and haze. And so it's easy to say, hey, this thing's got an accident on the Carfax, and look at these headlights, they look all gross. To be honest with you, this is about a $35 fix. If you have some elbow grease and some time on a Saturday, you can do it yourself. But we pay outside vendors to do this, and really it's actually cheap to make this look shiny and new. So don't worry about yellowed headlights, they all do it. And then I'm gonna pop the hood, and you're gonna hear something that's gonna sound very suspicious. You hear that sound over on the passenger side over there. What happens is a lot of times these hoods get out of alignment and they just need to be realigned. It's actually catching on the fender there. So when you open up the hood, you go, oh, you know what? See, it's been in an accident. It's got structural damage. The hood sounds crummy. You're missing what could potentially be a really nice car. This car is actually in really good condition. It just has high miles and a negative report on the Carfax. But the car itself is actually quite sound. If you want to know with your own eyes if a car's been in a car accident, it's always the same with every car. It's always shiny paint on the outside, it's always dull paint on the inside. The reason is you can approach it with two different paint concepts when you're at the manufacturing level of the car. Once the car is already built though, they just take the fender off and paint it and put it back on. Because of that, you'll have the same paint concept on the outside as you will on the inside, and it'll be shiny here, it'll also be shiny here. The shinier the interior of the engine compartment is, the worse that is, not the better that is. You want it nice and dull all the way to this edge, and you want it the same on both sides. Now keep in mind, cars are built by robots, so whatever's on one side of the car, it needs to look exactly that way on the other side of the car. If there's any deviation at all, you know that there's been work performed on the car. Now, if I look at the screws here, because there's no clear coat, there's very little paint on these screws. all cars are this way. Because of that, they scratch really easily. So if I turn these with a wrench, they'll be all chewed up on the outside all the way through here. Whenever you see that these are all chewed up, these screws right here, you know for sure the car's been in an accident. Also, you want to look at the screws that hold the hood to the bodywork. If these are all chewed up, then again, the hood's been replaced. So even though this car says it's got an accident on the Carfax, and even though this hood is catching and these headlights are yellow, believe it or not, this entire area has never been compromised by an accident. And we'll look and see where the accident was. We know it wasn't here. Now this car is a popular color combination. Some cars are colors are more popular than others. The whites and blacks and grays tend to be more popular. The blues and the reds tend to be less popular. And then also sports package cars for resale value tend to be the most popular. Options like navigation, although cool when the car is new, not that big of a deal. This car is almost a 10-year-old car, and so the technology is hopelessly out of date by this point. Anyway, now one thing I do want to look at is the tires. The tires are Kumos in the front, and then I see these wheels are a little chewed up. Wheels, again, I'm not going to get too concerned about these wheels. Any car that's older, especially with wheels that kind of protrude out like this, is going to have some scratches. If I'm just dying to have a car with no scratches on the wheel, it's about $125 to refinish the wheel, and it looks good as new. But those Kumos on the front are partnered up with Federal tires on the back, and Federal tires are like super bottom feeder. And the tires, because this is a rear-wheel drive car, and a high-performance rear-wheel drive car at that, are taking an inordinate amount of wear and tear. And so if I'm going to have the better of the two as far as price goes, tires, I want the more expensive tire on the back, not on the front. And so at least they're fairly new. I mean, I'll get some life span out of them, but these are really a cheesy brand of tire. If I look at the driver's seat here, now this one's all chewed up right here. They're all chewed up right there. Don't trip about that. Any interior repair guy can do one of two things. Either they can mask this with some vinyl and it'll actually look pretty nice. Some go the extra mile and then they'll take this entire panel off and then put a new panel on. This as a fix, probably about $60 or $70. Taking this panel off, probably about $100. My suggestion is spend about $200 and get somebody who knows what they're doing. And what they do is they take this panel off and they fill it with Brillo pads, and then it becomes stiff and just like brand new, and then it'll last forever and ever and you don't have to worry about it. I want to pop the trunk on this one too. Now, one thing I'm going to look for, because I'm already on alert because the car's an older car with 130-odd thousand miles, that I'm just certain some bad thing has happened to it in its life. But now that I know that it says on the Carfax that there's damage disclosure, well then I just want to find out where it is. But that same rule that I told you about in the front, where you're looking to see for the flat finish in here and the shiny finish out here, well, it actually is still the same. There's no repaint in this entire area. And then what I said is whatever one concept is on one side, it needs to be the same concept on the other side. And here's where I'm spotting a difference, is that this weld right here has a particular, almost like a long rectangular concept. It might be spot welds, it might be kind of puttied up. Whatever it is, there's a million ways to weld something together. They just need to be the same on both sides. If I look at this side right here, it's the kind of mix and match. This line's not straight, this has some brushings in here, and so I know beyond the shadow of a doubt that one of these two fenders was worked on, either this one or this one. And then I look at these screws right here, and that same thing I was saying to worry about with the screws looking all chewed up, these screws are all chewed up. And so I know for sure that this left fender was compromised in some way, shape, or form. Now, if I'm going to get in a car accident, I'd rather it be in the back than in the front or the sides. If it's in the sides, then you know the airbag's deployed. If it's in the front, you know the airbag's deployed. Plus, in the front, it shakes the engine and transmission, and you don't know what happened there and what the long-term ramifications are. If it gets hit in the back, I mean, I'd rather a car not be hit, but if it's going to get hit, there's really nothing back here to really screw up. However, one thing you want to do is just smell the trunk. And the reason is there's a distinctive mold smell that'll never go away. If this is leaking, like this tail light was compromised in such a way that water just for years has been getting in here, it'll just smell horrible and you'll never get that smell out. So long as it smells fresh and normal, you're in pretty good shape. Also, I want to look and see that there's a spare tire, that there's tools, and that everything looks the way I'm expecting this car to look. And everything looks pretty decent. So whatever happened, yeah, it's been in an accident, but probably not the end of the world. The other thing is that whenever you get a sports package, it has this spoiler. You want to make sure, if at all possible, that the spoiler, if it was added after the fact, was added by an Infiniti dealer. The reason is everybody likes the look of spoilers, but there's a third brake light here and there's a third brake light here. When you add a spoiler after the fact, you have to reroute the wiring from this brake light to this brake light. And if somebody wants to do it, some weekend warrior in their garage, they always screw this up and it'll cause you all kinds of problems forever and ever. It's such a big deal on these G35 coupes that if somebody added a spoiler aftermarket and disconnected these wires and ran them through here, honestly, I wouldn't even buy the car. It's that big of a deal. I've seen too many customers have too many major problems, the result of this rewiring that they can just never seem to rectify, and it causes problems well above and beyond the lights and the brake lights and what have you. But this one was factory installed, so everything looks just fine. Passenger side, I'm going to see a couple of door dings here. Again, it's easy to beat an older car up, but if you're looking for something that's stylish and fast and fun and under 10 grand, again, you're going to make some compromises. A couple of door dings, really it's not that big of a deal. Let's take a look inside and turn this car on. Now, a lot of people, they say they want a 6-speed manual transmission, and I owned an 05 coupe with a 6-speed transmission. I owned it for 4 years, and it was a great car. One of the things you need to know about a 6-speed transmission, though, is that the 6-speed transmissions go through clutches. And they go through clutches, depending on your driving style, between 70,000 miles and about 150,000 miles. Some knucklehead who doesn't know how to drive, the clutch could go out tomorrow. I mean, if you're frying the clutch with every single shift, then it could go out at any old time. But historically, we've seen clutches on the low end 70, on the high end 150, 160. The problem with clutches is if you've replaced a clutch in your Civic, you know that your neighborhood car fixer place has a special going on every Sunday for about $300 to replace the clutch. Not the case on the G35. 6-speed clutch replacements on G35s is about $2 grand, and that's even if you go to an independent shop. The clutch itself is really expensive, it's a very complicated process, and it's $2 grand, and you just need to factor that into your equation. If you're buying a car with its original clutch and it's got 50, 60, 80,000 miles, you have to put that number $2 grand in your head and say, I'm gonna be on the hook for that expense at some point. The other thing is the services. 90K service, a premier service is about $1,000. You can do it halfway for about $500. There is no timing belt in these cars, it's all chain driven, so at least you have the benefit of that, but you still need to replace the water pump, you still need to replace the spark plugs, they're platinum tip, they're expensive, and so you still need to get that done. I mentioned on the Carfax how this car could have 1 million service records and you'd never know it by looking at the Carfax at about 50 or 60% of the Infiniti stores in the country, including ours. All you need to do is call any Infiniti store. It doesn't matter if you live in Timbuktu and you call a dealership 5 states away, it doesn't matter. You call them up and say, can you pull the service history for this car and fax it to me? And if you say it in your friendliest voice, they will do it for you and just fax it to wherever you are. And you can get every single service record going back to day one. And more significantly, you get the actual comments made by the technician when they were doing those services. I recommended this, this, and this, and they said no, no, no. I noticed that there were rat infestation in their engine area and it was chewing all the wires, and they said they were going to trade it in. I noticed that the airbag wasn't working and they told me just to unplug it. And so you see things that you would never ever ever see in any other format, and so getting those service records on Infinitis is worth its weight in gold, especially if you're on a budget looking for something under 10 grand but still has the sexy look that you're proud to show up in. I'm going to turn this car on. And so you hear a little belt noise there just at the initial startup. And so again, if you're naturally paranoid about cars and you just think every dealer's out there or private party's out there to shyster you and pull one over on you, belt noise, honestly, not that big a deal. Belts are pretty inexpensive to replace, and you can just spray some silicone. People always say spray WD-40. You don't spray WD-40 on your belts, you do spray silicone on your belts, and you can get silicone at the auto parts store for nothing. You just keep a bottle in your garage and spray some of that on there and you're good as new. If the sound keeps coming back over and over, just replace the belt. And again, belts aren't that expensive on Infinitis like most Japanese cars. I'm going to rev it up just a little bit. Now, of course, there's no substitute for actually driving a car, but just sitting here in the car, turning it on, starts up okay, sounds okay, there's no check engine light on. That's a big one that you need to be conscientious of, is the check engine light. People always say on Japanese cars, and most of the time they're right, is that it's just the gas cap or an O2 sensor or something like that. But if you're buying a car, especially if you're buying a car as is, there's something on the dashboard that says check the engine. You need to check the engine, and so you need to take it to a qualified mechanic who knows exactly what that code's all about. A lot of times somebody will say, oh, my buddy has one of those things that reads what the code is. Don't bring your buddy with the code that reads things. Take it to an actual Infiniti dealer and they will pull it for you and they will tell you exactly what's going on. The Infiniti dealer is not there to screw you over, even if you're buying a car private party. Service department is totally different from the sales department, any dealership in the world. They're there to have their own relationship with you, and they hope they win you over enough that you'll consider doing your oil changes and such at their dealership. So they'll take good care of you. Just, it's $129 to get a buyer's inspection on a car, as far as $129 you'll ever spend. But in lieu of that, if you don't want to spend the $129 and you just want to go for it, the other thing you want to do for sure is bring a bunch of CDs that you don't like and check the CD changer, because they're all bad. Every single one of them, they all need to be replaced from 03 until 07 in the coupe. And it's this Bose setup that they have, and it just eats CDs. I put about 20,000 miles on my car in 4 years, and I had to replace the CD changer 2 times. And so it eats the CDs. There's no getting the CDs out, and you actually have to send the unit back to the factory if it's under warranty. This car's not under warranty, so you have to send it to a repair shop. It's about $800, and a lot of the wiring and stuff, it's essential that this unit be stock. And so if you do decide to take the stereo out and put in like a Car Toys type of stereo, make sure their best guy's working on it and totally knows what's going on, because it's easy to mess up an Infiniti. All of a sudden your lights stop working inside, or all of a sudden one of your gauges stops working or something like that. It's easy to make a mistake putting in an aftermarket radio. Same with aftermarket alarms. I try and steer clear of anything with an aftermarket alarm unless I know for sure that it was installed by somebody who knows what they're doing, because again, you have a million electrical problems as a result of poorly installed aftermarket equipment. Alarms are kind of the worst offender. But again, this car is 136,000 miles with a bad Carfax. Is probably about a $9,000 car. Sport package with a wing, cool colors, actually has pretty decent service records. It looks good, it drives nice. I mean, I've had a chance to drive this car. This is actually for somebody who wants to make a really intelligent buy. This car is worth 6 or 7 grand for 3 or 4 years. You could drive a cool car that's a fast car for a couple of grand over a few years. You gotta be kidding me. It's the smartest money you'll ever spend in a car. So long as you don't make a mistake and buy one that immediately needs a bunch of work. It's got bad brakes, bad tires, it just drives crummy, it's got a multitude of problems, they neglected every service. Now you're on the hook for all that stuff. But if all that stuff's on point, again, for 9 grand, I don't care if it's got stupid Carfax, it's 9 grand. I don't care if it's got 136 clicks. If the car drives great, it drives great. If the price is right and the look is right and the performance is right, you've picked a winner. If you have any questions at all about any car that you found out there and you're just trying to find out if it's the right car for you, like I said, anybody will pull those service records for you, in fact, me included. Please don't hesitate to give me a call and let me know the VIN number of the car you're trying to track down some history to. I'll get it for you myself if that's what you want. My name's Joe Tunney. I'm the sales manager here at Infiniti of Kirkland for the past 10 years, and a very loyal Infiniti repeat customer, having owned 2 coupes myself. I'm happy to participate in your buying decision as well. You can reach me anytime at 425-821-1400, or just drop me an email at joet@infinitiofkirkland.com.